All right. I've got 10:15. We'll go ahead and get started. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings held twice monthly. So we have two items on our work session agenda here. The first is the agenda review. Do we have anybody that wants to?
I'm sorry, I'll pull it up right now.
Oh,
Can you all see the calendar?
yep, see the
Okay.
calendar.
Okay. So I don't know if any commissioners have any things they would like on the future calendar.
I'm sorry.
Say that is the calendar for Outlook. That's our email calendar. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Let me get the right calendar up.
It looks like Monica's busy.
Where is one? Oh, there it is. Okay. Now do you see the agenda calendar?
Yes.
Okay, great. So if anybody has any things they would like on future agendas, or if they have any questions about what's upcoming. A lot of budget meetings.
Lots of budget meetings, yeah. Anybody have any questions or comments about the working agenda here? Anyone? Well, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item. Thank you for pulling that up, Teresa.
Mhm.
And so next is the psilocybin regulations for 2024. Jay Blake, our planning manager, is here, and we're going to talk about maybe a path forward for our psilocybin.
Yes, thank you, Chair Kuyela and members of the board. Those of you who've been around a few years remember 2022, where the county was faced with several choices of how to proceed with the regulation or lack of regulation with regards to psilocybin production and distribution facilities. At that time, the county elected to put a temporary moratorium on the ballot, and the moratorium did pass with 10,609 votes voting for it and about 8,500 voting against the moratorium. The current moratorium was designed for a 2-year period. It was considered essentially a temporary moratorium. I know as in my work at the city of Warrenton, we did the same thing where we did essentially a temporary moratorium, and we referred the final permanent moratorium onto the voters in the 2024 election. In this case, at the county level, we did adopt a moratorium, but it is set to sunset at the end of 2024. And there are a couple of paths forward, and I have been working with County Council, Mr. Pope, to look at those options and see what path forward we might choose. And so we're here as your staff to try to get some direction. I really see 3 options in front of you, and they're all, certainly viable options. One is to develop some time, place, and manner regulations. The county has that authority. The state gives us the authority to do so, and we would have the ability to regulate where the facilities were, where the growing would occur, and really there's two ways we can be fairly lenient in that, or we can go the other direction on the scale and be quite restrictive on that. And different counties have chosen different paths, and we could take a look at different options and work with the Planning Commission to bring you some regulations that we would want to have enacted, obviously prior to the end of this particular year. The second option that I saw, and Council Pope has reviewed as well, is to refer a permanent moratorium on these types of facilities within our county. That type of permanent moratorium would again take a vote of the citizenry to enact. And that is an option. And there's a completely different path that we would take under the guidance of the county council to get the necessary documentation done, notifications, and so forth, so that that could be placed on the ballot this fall. It does need to occur in a general election, so that has to be in one of the even year elections. And so this would be the year in which it could occur. In the attachments that I presented or included in the packet, I did show you the results of the elections from 2022. There were 5 entities that proposed temporary moratoriums, and all of those temporary moratoriums were successful or did pass. There were quite a number of counties and a number of cities as well that proposed permanent moratoriums, and the direction was a little more mixed. In Deschutes, Douglas, and Jackson, and Josephine, the permanent moratoriums did not pass. And so the counties were put in a position to enact some time, place, manner regulations because they did not want it to be essentially free for all. And I don't mean that in a negative term, but they did not want it to go through without some sorts of control. A number of counties and the cities of Astoria, Cannon Beach, and Gerhard at that time chose to not move forward with any type of regulations. And so those then become places where a time, place, manner ordinance would have been enacted. We put this out here before you because there are some timeframes that we need to meet if we choose as a county to move forward in terms of an election. And that's something that County Council Pope would take the lead on, and I would provide technical assistance and support in whatever manner we need to. If we do the time, place, manner ordinance, we would then refer it to our Planning Commission with some direction. We would conduct workshops and look at options that have been enacted around the state of Oregon. It is unique because Oregon right now is the only one that has this situation where these types of facilities are regulated in this manner. So we would certainly want to take a look at some of the other places around the country, excuse me, around the state that have some sample ordinances. So with that, I would close and ask for your direction and guidance, and then we would move forward with whichever way you want to move.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Jay. Let's move to Commissioner Toyoka first. Commissioner Toyoka.
Thank you. So I have some questions, and I'm glad County Council is still here. So looking at this, when 109 was passed and all that, it was basically set up and put on the ballot as a therapeutic, so people could use psilocybin as a therapy for anything from PTSD and on. Now, this is where I want clarification from County Council. It looks like, is this codified as, is it 475A for the state of Oregon? And if you read that, it goes through and basically measures only this legalizing supported adult use is their terminology. Under non-medical model, we're trained and licensed facilitators. They offer safety and support prior, during, and after session with a dose of psilocybin. So that's what's, they're looking at codified 475A. And in it, it also states that licensed therapists, are trying to who want to become facilitators. They need to delineate how to practice because they're barred from using psilocybin in therapy. So right, and even so, my reading, it says that psilocybin cannot be used in any therapy. It only can be used as in contextually they say, what is it, supported adult use. So the whole premise of passing 109 was to use it as therapy, but as they codify it in 475A, it's saying it cannot be used for therapy, and therapists cannot direct psilocybin for therapeutic uses. So it seems like a real conflict and how it's been written is, in 475A. So that's why I'd like clarification. Is that true? Is it, basically therapists cannot use this as a psilocybin for their therapy, but it can be used for personal use only, is what it looks like.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Toga. Do we have a response, County Council?
I don't have a specific response. I can definitely look into that. When I was preparing for today's session, I was more looking at the legality of setting up the ordinance and the vote. I didn't really look through, the details of it. So let me look into that, Commissioner Toyoka, and I can get back to you with a definite answer. I just don't want to say anything that's incorrect.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to make sure, because if the whole purpose is for therapy and then you can't use it for therapy, it seems counterintuitive to why why it was passed in the first place. Thank you.
You're muted, Chair Clayla.
Well, sorry about that. Commissioner Banks.
Yeah, good morning. I just, as I look at this issue moving forward, part of me wishes that we had more time. Is there an option for a second temporary moratorium, or do we have to either go straight to requesting from our voters a permanent moratorium, or this other option of time, place, and manner?
So yeah, I was looking into that. I think unfortunately the 2-year moratorium was kind of a one-time thing. Just because we did move forward to a permanent moratorium doesn't mean that can't be rescinded by the board later on. So I think that would kind of be, if this is something that can be addressed again, and there's definitely, it could be removed if desired. So it's permanent, as in it's permanent until we decide that we want to allow it.
Because I feel like that there is a lot that still needs to be discovered, and part of my concern is I want Clatsop County to be a leader in a number of things: childcare, healthcare, and all of the positives. I would much rather have more time in regards to this particular topic, because I feel like I would love to wait and see how other counties successfully approach this topic versus potentially in another direction. And I also agree with Commissioner Toyoka that there's not a lot of clear lines and definitions still as of yet. And so I would be interested in pursuing a moratorium again through our voters. And then if our voters say no to that's fine. The voters have spoken, and then we can approach it from the other direction and develop time, place, and manner. But that's just where my thoughts are, is caution, because we've seen how, Measure 110 played out. We've seen how a number of things have played out. And so caution is where I'm at. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Banks. Planning Manager?
Just a couple of quick comments, and I think County Council Pope has alluded to that. If the electorate does opt for a moratorium, the county board would have the authority to back up if something is discovered later on. My research indicates that as of last fall, I think there were 7 current licensed facilities in the state, something around 7. And I've not had any research done on impacts or community issues related to them. So there isn't any cases for me to go and say, oh, this happened in Corvallis or whatever. So Commissioner Bangs is correct. There's still some unknowns in terms of what it is that they're hoping to accomplish with it.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Toyoka?
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize, I think before the voters get to decide, they need to know what it's actually gonna, the impacts of what is gonna happen with this psilocybin. You know, if therapies are not authorized, I think that kind of contradicts the reason they voted for the whole thing in the first place. So we have to make sure that they get the facts as we, you know, if you want to vote for a moratorium, you want to go to, you know, time, place management, we have to have the facts out there. What can it and can it not do? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. Any other comments on this? Our timeline for having it on or going to the voters would be when then?
I can address a little bit of that. There are deadlines in August relative to having the county board move things forward, having the proper language written out for the explanation of the moratorium. I don't have the exact timeframes, but I believe it is August. We do have a little bit of time here. In either case, I would suggest that the planning commission start to at least look at time, place, manner to have as a fallback so that we are not caught in November or December having to quick run something through. So either way, I think what I would like is kind of some general direction on the moratorium, but then I'm also, just for complete clarity, probably going to continue to work with the planning commission to have something prepared in the event that something goes a different direction.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Assistant County Manager?
I just wanted to get confirmation on a point of clarification that if this goes before the voters, it's a county-wide vote, but it is only going to be impacting unincorporated areas.
Yes, that's what we discovered last time. Yes, thank you. Commissioner Banks.
I just for also a point of clarification, I do agree with Commissioner Toyoka on fully exploring what is actually allowable use versus what is assumed allowable use, and having clear definitions in front of the voters if we go the direction of a potential permanent moratorium. And again, I recognize that it is just for unincorporated Clatsop County, but as I look at our rural areas of unincorporated Clatsop County, I'm kind of in a position of feeling like our cities, this would be a better choice for our cities to be able to like make individual choice on, and which I agree is what will end up happening. And it's not a countywide moratorium. We can't control what happens within municipalities, but I just don't see how this could be functional for our rural unincorporated areas, or how it could even be remotely manageable for our county staff. So anyhow, those are just my thoughts. I'm interested in pursuing a permanent moratorium for the unincorporated areas of our county, and then fully defining what is actual allowable use for our constituents so that they understand what they're voting for. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair Banks. Commissioner Webb.
Yeah, actually, that's interesting, Commissioner Bang's approach, because I had actually kind of assumed that this would be something that would be probably most applicable in the rural parts of the county. I remember when we first when was this that we considered this? This was like a year ago, right? That this first came to us, at least, and looking at some of the research in it, the uses and the places where it was suggested that the use of this what do we call it? Do we call it a drug? Would be highly appropriate in rural areas, because it's apparently a process that is recommended to take at least several hours and sometimes more than that. And so being in in a quiet, rural setting, without external noises, apparently was kind of the recommended, process for this. I feel as if that since I thought we had actually kind of decided, once the yes vote happened, that we would proceed with exploring. I don't remember whether or not we opted or even considered a moderate or restrictive uses, but it seems to me that definitely we need to explore this as a positive thing. I'm sorry that the timeline is so short. But I thought we had agreed basically to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Any other comments, questions? Vice Chair Banks?
I'm just curious with our current zoning restrictions and farm forests for, the majority of rural Clatsop County, that I was under the assumption that most of our land use is farm forest, and that unless you're operating a farm-based business, you have to have a conditional use permit for it anyway. So I'm just wondering about functionality of our land use, our current codes in regards to this topic of conversation, because it sounds like that this would need to be more of like a doctor's office type situation. And I was unaware that, our rural county had an abundance of doctor's office type land available for use. So anyhow, I'm just kind of curious, for in regards to whether or not this would actually even fit our current code. So anyhow, thank you.
Planning Manager?
Yes, thank you. And Commissioner Banks and Commissioner Webb, a couple of additional pieces of information. There's two major aspects. One is the growing and production side, and one is the distribution side. And there's really two different parts that we would have to consider as we look at any sort of time, place, manner. In the county's ordinances that I've seen so far, the growing and production are generally allowed in farm and forestry areas. And so there's obviously a lot of state rules and regulations as to how large the track has to be, what sort of buildings can or cannot be built. So the production and growing is really one aspect of it. The distribution and or testing is, as Commissioner Bangs has said, is typically done in urban areas. And so that's why they look at the two sides of this issue. Arguably, growing mushrooms is an agricultural use, at least by the county's ordinances that I've seen so far. So we'd have to look at both sides of this issue before we move forward with anything.
Yeah, thank you, Planning Manager. Vice Chair Banks?
Quick question, and this is along the lines of the growing. Is there a way for us to research water usage in conjunction to grow operations? Just because this may end up being a conversation that needs to be had also with our small water districts before we decide to take the lead and control it. We might need to consider what is our water capacity, what is the level of usage required for a grow operation, and do our water districts actually have capacity in order to support something potentially that has a high water usage? I don't know the answer to that. And so that's kind of when I think about allowing particular grow operations within our unincorporated community, we need to also look at our infrastructure Does the water infrastructure, would it be able to support it? And that's a conversation I think that we will need to have here at some point. Thank you.
Thanks, Vice Chair Banks. Any other comments or questions? Sheriff? Nothing?
I don't have any comments or questions, but I'm just here if there was any questions of me.
Okay. Well, what's the pleasure of the commission? Do we want to move forward as the planning manager suggested that we can move on 2 tracks? One would be the exploring the moratorium, and at the same time working with the planning commission to develop time, place, and manner restrictions and get an idea on what that would look like. What, Vice Chair Banks?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the thought process of 2 tracks, one exploring the permanent moratorium, and then the second one being always being prepared for any outcome. So thank you.
Thanks, Vice Chair. Planning Manager?
Just as a takeaway to the information that perhaps myself and Council Pope can put together on what is allowed or not allowed, we can take a look at that and get that information back to you. But I do think the 2 tracks allows us both options, and we're starting early enough where I think we would have time.
Yeah, thank you, Planning. I agree. That's Commissioner Webb.
I I think, you know, we do have a vote from our constituents that is in favor of implementing this. And but I agree that I think it's the 2-track option, you know, for the 2 different uses is definitely in order. But I do feel motivated by the fact that our constituents were in favor of this, and so we owe it to them to proceed exploring the options. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Toyoka.
Yeah, I agree. We need to explore it, but I think the voters voted on, one thing, that it was therapeutic. And when it's codified, it is, therapy is excluded, and it's now, self-determinate use of psilocybin. So it's so different than that was presented to the voters. So I think as we go forward, we have to make sure that that is explained and clarified, and then look at all, TPM regulation and moratorium, see what path takes us with that full knowledge of, I don't think they voted in a manner that, and when they codified it, it didn't come out as they voted, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. And I think that information will be helpful as County Council and Planning Manager had stated. Any other comments or questions? Jay, do you have what you need from us?
Commissioner Quila, yeah, I believe that what I will do is begin the process of additional research related to what is allowed, what is not allowed with Council Pope. And then I will also begin the process of providing information to the Planning Commission to prepare essentially the fallback sheet, the process, and so we'll move forward with both is what I'm hearing, and we're prepared to do that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. Well, we don't have any other items on our agenda for the work session, so does anybody have any? Oh, Assistant County Manager.
Thank you. I just wanted to kind of convey, because these next couple of weeks is going to be kind of hectic, and so I just wanted to kind of reaffirm the budget meeting process for you all. And so next week at your board meeting on the 24th, we will be distributing out the budget document. If you do not want a hard copy, please let myself or Andy or Teresa know, and we'll know that you'll just you'll have it virtually. But that's gonna happen on the 24th. You'll then have a week with the document to just kind of review it. And then on May 1st, at the regularly scheduled work session, which is a virtual meeting, we will be providing the budget training as well as reading the budget message. And then you will have another week to continue to digest the information, and we will begin on May 8th, which is your regularly scheduled board meeting. It will be hybrid, so if people aren't able to be in person, they can still attend virtually. And that's when we will begin at 4 p.m. with the special districts budget meetings, and then at 5 p.m. we will go into the countywide budget. And we will go until 6 p.m., which then leads into your regular board meeting. And then the following week, we'll go back to virtual only, working with the countywide budget and proceed with meetings as necessary. But myself, Andy, Dawn, we're all available if you have any questions. Andy did have just a how do you do introduction meeting to our budget committee earlier this week, and that went well. And so we are already kind of introducing to them what our countywide, for new participants, what our county budget document looks like, and letting them know that they're available, we're available for questions at any time. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Assistant County Manager, for the update. Any other things for the good of the order? All right, well, we'll go ahead and adjourn.